Thomas, a volunteer beach steward in Florida, came across what looked like a dead juvenile shark washed up on shore. It wasn't breathing, wasn't moving, so he bent down to take a photo for the incident report. But as he touched its fin, the shark suddenly opened one eye. What followed turned him into an accidental hero and raised serious questions about the coastline's safety. Thomas Heller had just finished stacking the last orange trash bag onto the volunteer pickup cart when he noticed the change in the wind. It was subtle, cooler, coming in low off the water. The tide had begun to recede, drawing uneven lines of foam along the beach. He turned his head and scanned the sand flats near the northern sandbar. Something gray and unmoving caught his eye. At first he assumed it was driftwood or an abandoned boogie board. But the shape was too organic, too clean. 4 feet long, slightly arched, tapering into a tail. He stepped off the walkway and headed toward it, his boots sinking slightly into the damp sand. The object didn't move. As he got closer, his chest tightened. It was a shark, young but unmistakable, a juvenile bull shark, light gray across the top, pale underneath, and lightly coated in a layer of wet grit. Its gills were collapsed and dry, no movement at all. The eyes were shut, the mouth slightly open, filled with the unmistakable rows of serrated teeth. Thomas looked around. No lifeguards, no other volunteers in sight. Only a few tourists, several hundred yards down the shoreline, some packing up, others ignoring the beach entirely. He crouched down slowly, careful not to startle anything just in case it wasn't fully dead. But it didn't respond. No twitch, no reflex. The sand beneath it was damp and firm, suggesting the tide had only recently left it behind. Still, it looked gone. The chest cavity showed no pulse, no signs of gill function. Thomas removed his phone from the waterproof pouch clipped to his vest and opened the local marine wildlife reporting app. There was a category for stranded or dead sea life. He selected shark, entered the location, and raised the phone to take a picture. As he leaned in closer to center the shot, he noticed the texture of the dorsal fin. Scratched, scarred, possibly tagged at some point. Maybe it was part of a research program. He reached out slowly, extending 2 fingers toward the fin to check for stiffness. Just as his hand touched it, the shark's left eyelid twitched, then lifted. The eye opened. Glossy, black, unblinking. It stared straight into him. Thomas fell back in the sand. The shark didn't move, didn't bite, didn't even flinch, just held that eye open. Watching. Alive. Thomas froze. The shark's eye remained open. It didn't move. It didn't react. But it was alive. That one detail overrode everything he thought he knew about what he'd found. Just seconds ago, it had been a dead specimen. Something to photograph and document. Now it was looking at him. Not blinking, not struggling, but aware. His first instinct was to retreat. He took 1 step back, eyes locked on the shark, heart pounding in short, sharp bursts. The shark still didn't move. No tail flick, no fin adjustment, nothing. It just lay there, half sunken in the wet sand, with one eye open like a crack in a sealed door. Thomas crouched again, this time slower, more careful. He watched for breathing. The gills were barely moving now, almost imperceptible, but definitely alive. He scanned the beach. Still no lifeguards, still no backup. The nearest people were a group of teenagers far downshore throwing a frisbee. A family with umbrellas was packing up for the day. No one was looking his way. He turned back to the shark. The eye was still on him, silent, passive, unreadable. Not hostile, but not friendly either. Just present. He opened his backpack and pulled out a laminated marine response card. It had procedures for handling stranded animals. He scanned the section on small sharks. If the animal is alive, rehydrate the gills, remove from direct heat, and return to water as soon as possible. The instructions seemed simple, too simple. There was no mention of how to tell if the shark would lash out, or what to do if it only half revived. Thomas got up and jogged to the nearby rescue hut. He grabbed a red plastic sled used for hauling injured sea turtles, dragged it down the sand with effort, returned to the shark. It still hadn't moved. Its body was heavy and limp, but not rigid. He pushed the sled's edge under its body. It didn't resist. He worked slowly, shifting the weight a few inches at a time. Every now and then the eye would blink. Once. Then stay open again, as if it was checking him, measuring him. He got the full body onto the sled and stood up, hands on his knees, breathing hard. The shark didn't move, but it was alive, and it was letting him do this. That part unsettled him the most. Thomas grabbed the rope handle of the sled and started pulling. The shark's weight made it slow going. The plastic scraped across the sand in short jerks. His boots sank deeper with every step. The afternoon heat pressed down hard now. The breeze was gone. Sweat formed under his collar and soaked through the back of his shirt. Still, he didn't stop. He kept his eyes on the surf. The tide was retreating but hadn't gone far. The shallow edge of the water was maybe 30 yards away. He focused on that point. Just get there. Just reach it. The shark remained motionless on the sled, its eyes still open, its body still limp. The gills showed faint movement every few seconds. No thrashing, no attempt to escape. A few people watched now. One tourist with a beach hat took out a phone and filmed. Another called out asking if the shark was dead. Thomas didn't answer. He couldn't explain what he was doing, not fully. He didn't know if it would work. All he knew was that the shark wasn't dead, and that seemed to matter. He reached the waterline. The first wave lapped over the sled and soaked the edge of the shark's tail. No reaction. He pulled again, one final drag, until the whole sled dipped into the shallow current. Then he stopped, waited. The shark didn't move. Thomas stepped into the water and tilted the sled slowly, letting the ocean fill in around the animal's body. The gills were submerged now. He crouched low and held the shark steady with both hands. A long minute passed. Then the shark twitched. It was a small movement, a ripple through its back, a flick of the tail, then stillness again. He waited. Then came the second twitch, sharper. The head shifted slightly. The eye blinked once. Thomas stepped back. Let go. The sled drifted sideways. The shark rolled off it. For a moment it lay on its side in the shallow water. The current swirled around it. Then it turned upright, balanced. Its tail flicked once with more strength. Then again, it moved forward in a slow arc, circling back into deeper water. Thomas stayed where he was, knee-deep in the surf, watching, breathing hard. The shark swam out, slow, calm, alive. 3 days later, Thomas received a call from an unfamiliar Florida number. The woman on the line introduced herself as Dr. Elise Harmon, a marine biologist with a shark behavior study based out of Sarasota. She said one of their tagged juveniles had pinged unexpectedly from a shore-based tracker and had been matched to a video submitted by a beachgoer. She asked if Thomas had recently assisted a stranded bull shark. He confirmed it. She asked if it had a small scar above the left gill. It did. The shark was part of a longitudinal study on thermal shock syndrome in coastal predators. According to her, some young sharks enter a temporary metabolic shutdown when exposed to sudden shifts in water temperature. It mimics death. No movement, no breathing, minimal brain activity. The animal becomes completely vulnerable. The team had only seen a few recover in the wild. Most washed up and were declared dead on arrival. But Thomas had pulled one back. His footage had quietly circulated in local conservation groups. Someone had filmed him dragging the sled. Another had captured the moment the shark rolled back into the surf. None of it was dramatic. No music, no screaming. Just effort, grit, and a shark slowly reanimating in salt water. The video didn't go viral in the traditional sense, but in marine science circles, it got attention. Thomas didn't call the news. He didn't post it. He didn't want to be in front of a camera. He kept doing his beach shifts as usual, picked up trash, logged jellyfish sightings, read weather maps. But the shark stayed in his thoughts, the moment it opened its eye, the way it watched him work, the total stillness, then the quiet decision to live again. Later that week, Dr. Harmon sent him a follow-up email. The shark's name was Delta 7 in their system. It was last tracked moving steadily south near the deeper channels of Marco Pass. Healthy, normal pattern, no signs of distress. Thomas read the message twice, then closed his phone and walked out onto the sand. The sun was setting, orange across the tide. A few gulls hovered overhead. The water looked calm. He scanned the edge of the surf automatically, out of habit, just in case something else was waiting.